Gaston County was built from within. You had business people that built businesses up. In fact, at the turn of the century, there were finally more mills in this community than there were stills. But there was a sense of entrepreneurship that drove people to want to do better. But it's a small town near a big town, and so it has all the benefits of being a small town that has all the big town benefit.
I choose to live and work here because I want to be a part of something special.
The reason I choose to live and conduct my business in Gaston County has as much to do with inheritance and where I was born as anything. I'm a native here. I find Gastonia and Gaston County a splendid place to live because of the people, the friends, the opportunities here, and the climate, both business climate and the weather climate.
Gaston County has a tremendous heritage. That heritage helps define what it is today, but it's also in part of a regional marketplace with tremendous opportunities.
I moved here in 1993, looking across the state of North Carolina for a place to practice. I wanted a small city near a metropolitan area that was growing and thriving. And I didn't want it to be just any small city, but the environment, the people, and especially the healthcare community was extremely important.
This is my home. It gave me an opportunity to come back and not only work in the community, but give back to the community, because that's what United Way does here. We've been doing that for 60 years.
When I ventured downtown, I saw empty buildings from the past that had a lot of character, but they were really left undone, and it reminded me of a blank canvas. And I like the idea of creating something from nothing.
My father was born and raised in Gaston County in Gastonia. Grew up behind the Sundrop production plant. He moved back to Gastonia eventually in his mid-30s when I was 4 years old and bought the company from Mr. Nanny in 1970. As a 4-year-old boy, I first stepped foot in the doors of Sundrop Bottling Company at the time with my father when I was a child, and kind of grew up in the business.
It was very clear that those were people I wanted to work with. The organization was moving in a direction that was consistent with what I thought we should be doing in healthcare, and so it was actually really very easy call to make to take this opportunity when it presented itself.
So being part of that is just my way of making this place better for me, for my children, for my students, and it's also just very rewarding to try and help make the place you live better.
My family was living in Washington, D.C. in the early 1940s, and there were rumors of war, and so I came to Sacred Heart in Belmont in 1941. I just became very impressed with the dedication of these women, and I began to envision myself as part of that community.
Well, I think it's special for me to have been given an opportunity in Mount Holly to assume a position that I don't think people that maybe look like me from a cultural standpoint has been given or has had, to be a city manager and then be in a position that I can affect people in a positive way by what we've done, not only in Mount Holly, but in Gaston County as a whole.
One of my best memories is traveling over to Charlotte to play, whether it was Country Day, Providence Day, or Charlotte Latin, but going into their gymnasiums and knowing that we were just going to beat the dickens out of those schools. And then doing that.
I was very blessed and very fortunate to have taken history classes with Bob Blanton at Gaston College, and through taking his anthropology and his world civilization courses, I immediately knew that history was what I wanted to do.
Like everybody, grew up in the 80s, cruising Franklin Boulevard was a big thing. Going to Oros and Black's Barbecue, getting cherry lemon Sundrop.
Tony's ice cream, those scoops of ice creams were as big as I was when I was 6 years old. And they still scoop them up the same way 50 years later.
In a very short period of time, personal tragedy struck my life, not once but twice. And the friends that I had in this community rallied around me in an unbelievable manner. But it went beyond that. Acquaintances came out of the woodwork. I knew that no matter what happened in my life, there is no way I could ever recreate anywhere in this country what I had found here in Gaston County.
I remember being able to ride the little train over at Lineberger Park. And I used to look forward to, as a small child, riding that little train. I'm very pleased to say today that with the leadership of several people here in the community, we were able to get that train back up and running for the kids today.
When they didn't think the movie playing in Belmont might be the best thing for us to see, we went on hikes, and I can't tell you how many times we hiked to McAdenville.
My favorite memory in Gaston County has got to be the fact that I found my wife here and married a Gastonia lady.
I like to think of Gaston County as kind of a gateway to beauty and industry. Because if you go west, the farther west you go, you're going into those mountains. You move east, you're going into the Charlotte, Mecklenburg area. So I think of Gaston County as kind of the gateway there, and I think it has a great future.
So getting to know the small communities around the county that really make up the fabric of Gaston County as a whole, Belmont, going over to Kramer Mountain, and just really seeing the parks that are available. So the quality of life is unsurpassed.
I remember working with a fellow who was fond of saying, if you always do what you've always done, you'll always get what you always got. And I'm thinking that going forward, that just isn't going to be good enough anymore. My vision would be that the next generation of leaders in Gaston County would make a commitment to a process that will transform our community into a situation where we will be competitive with anybody.
The cooperation between city government and county government and local businesses, I think in the last couple of years, there's been a little more push and strive to work together to figure out what long-term is the best for our community, for Gaston County.
And it is a general renaissance in a lot of different areas. That renaissance is also cultural. I think it will involve the arts and art space. It's going to involve downtown revitalization. It's going to involve the Low Ray coming back.
Great access to people who are most generous and hardworking people.
One of the things that I'm really excited to see is the question about who are we going to have as tomorrow's leaders, and then mentoring those folks who do call this home and bringing them along and tapping into their vision to help us go into the future.
I'd love to see our industry and our manufacturing continue to grow, and of course all that begins with education.
Where I see downtown Gastonia, which is old and older buildings with character, reinventing themselves and becoming a historic district, but also a cultural district.
I think it's time for us to stop apologizing. I think it's time for us to really work together as a community and do the things that are going to move this community forward in the future.
Having seen the changes I have in Mount Holly and Gaston County as a whole, I think the time is here for Gaston County to take its place in the region to be a major cog, especially from an economic development standpoint. The work that has gone into this county and the municipalities, I think, speaks volumes for where we would be and where people want to be, and I'm glad to be a part of it.
I would hope that at some point in time, everyone could come together, take advantage of those inherent resources that we truly have here in Gaston County. We also have an opportunity to build a bridge across those rivers that will only enhance those opportunities and take advantage of those resources that we have in the community.
I like Gastonia. It's home.